What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I am your hostess, doing the mostest, Kibanchi, and we are here with season 3, episode 6 of the Gilded Age, titled If You Want to Make an Omelette. Y'all, we got 2 episodes left after this. The finale airs on Sunday, August 10th. And this episode is crazy. First of all, let's just talk about this Final Destination ass ending with, I think his name is John Adams. Listen, the scream I scrummed when I scrum on Sunday. Increíble. Oscar, this episode for Oscar, honestly, y'all already know when I first met Oscar, I met him this season, and I was just kind of like, boy, don't nobody owe you nothing. Like, get up on your ass, go work. And then I started understanding his story. Like, okay, he was with Maud and she took everything that he had and, took his money, took his mama money. It was embarrassing. John was just a friend to him throughout this whole thing. Just like when Larry went and told Oscar, like, hey, I saw Maud. She down on her luck. She out there shaking her ass at the juke joint or whatever for money. And I felt like he shouldn't have went to go visit him. John gave him some very sound advice, but he went anyway. And it seems like things were just kind of reconciled. Conversations that should have been had were had, and they were very honest. And you really get to see a side of Oscar that I didn't see before, where a level of just understanding and forgiveness and just trust, like, yes, he was using her, she was using him, she was getting used, but at the end of the day, like, some type of friendship was forged. And so you see in this episode where there's reconciliation with that storyline, and John just being the perfect friend, the perfect lover, just the perfect everything to Oscar, and really being that sounding board for him. Oscar is working now. He got money, y'all. He even told Maud, girl, here's $100. Go make a new life for yourself. And I said, bitch, I want to make a new life with $100. What is up with inflation? It is terrible. And she's like, where are you getting this moolah? Where are you getting this bread? And he was like, listen, I'm doing good for myself. I picked myself up out of bootstraps, after everybody was shaming me into getting a job. But everything is gonna be okay. And Oscar says his last words to John, not knowing that those are gonna be his last words. And the CGI, it just threw me off because it was just such a stark cinematic difference from the way that the show has been going. But honestly, like, way back when, like, yeah, people was just carelessly walking into the streets, and the buggy and the horse couldn't just veer to the left, couldn't slam on the brakes. Like, one of your death traps was getting run over by a horse and carriage. And unfortunately, this is where we at. Now, people are saying, they hope that he lived. It's the 1880s, baby. It's the 1880s. I actually don't want him to live because he's just gonna be in pain. He's gonna be no good. Literally, he's going to be a lame. Like, he will not be able to use his body after a hit like that. Like, there's no surviving this. I just hate that it seems like Oscar cannot have his cake and eat it too. Like, he finally was making money. He reconciled with Maud. He got his man on his side. He's doing good in society. He's out giving sound advice to Marian. We're gonna get to her. And it's like, okay, now his, platonic bestie leaves, even though she kind of stole from him, whatever, she leaves. And now his man might be dead. Like, what we doing to Oscar? Well, Oscar can't know happiness. Why can't he know happiness? I don't like it. I don't like it. Um, Definitely jarring. Definitely a shock. I still cannot even imagine what episode 7 is even gonna look like. And speaking of jarring and shocking, but not something that I didn't anticipate, Clay is working with the ops. Okay. JP Morgan called a meeting with George, Mr. Sage, and the Merrick brothers. Now let's talk about the Merrick brothers real quick. George, you was giving my good sis Bertha ultimatums when a man like Arthur Merrick was sitting at that dinner table, giving her the googly eyes and falling for the traps that you ask her to set. But then Big Brother Edgar stepped out the carriage looking like a zaddy, sir. If she want to replace you with somebody with a beard, baby, the Merrick brothers are fine. Where did they pull them from? But anyways, they all go there, and Mr. Sage is like, hey, Jorge, you remember Clay? And the level of arrogance that George has had on display because of his flailing, because of his misgivings and insecurities and all these other things, left a huge blind spot. And I don't remember if I said this when he fired him, but we're going to say it now, okay? You just thought Clay was going to leave and not be of value and of service to somebody else. He knows all your secrets. And he knows you're broke. So while you sitting over here trying to lay it all on the table and be up in the room and like a peacock and make yourself big and make yourself seem more, what's the word? Seem that working with you and giving you the majority shares of the rail line in Chicago, what do I want to say? Like, you're puffing out your chest, you're trying to make yourself bigger, you're trying to make yourself look more. It's a word. It's not beautiful. Oh my God, I hate when I get stuck on it, but it's 5 o'clock in the morning. What do you expect? And I hate that. Oh my God. I can't think of the word. Anyways, he's trying to make himself seem like the best choice. And he's doing all this huffing and puffing and just really, he knows how to speak and he knows how to play hardball. Like, that is a given, right? But the problem is you fired Clay for doing his job, okay? And you didn't think he would be mad about it? He was with you shooting in the gym, but because you got mad and because you was in your feelings, you let him go. And so now he's telling Mr. Sage, you ain't got no money. He's telling Mr. Sage, you are brokey. And everybody is pulling out. So now you got to go back home with your tail tucked between your legs. And your new advisor even telling you, like, bro, we need to pivot. We need to have a different plan of attack. And George is like, I'll let all this shit burn to the ground before I sell or do anything like that. Okay. Your daughter is out of the house. Your son is grown. He don't need to live in the house. You're still married. You can literally fire all of the aides in the house. You're still married. So you're going to allow your ego to let your business burn because you still think that your dick is bigger than theirs. And so now what? Your wife, who spent all this time finagling through society, she legally, again, cannot get a job. So she's doing what she can to make sure that y'all have a name for yourselves, to make sure she has a name for herself, to make sure Gladys has a name for herself, and funds to fund the other brokey that Gladys is married to, just for you to come home and potentially it's all gone. But then you want to tell her you don't know if you're going to be back. You know what? You probably shouldn't be back, because I wouldn't want to be on the tail end of my wife coming at me knowing that the business is going under and I'm too prideful and too arrogant to listen to the people that I hire to advise me and take their advice. This is what happens when you're a dick. when you're an asshole, when you're being unnecessarily mean for no reason. What you did to Clay, George, what you did to Clay was completely uncalled for. And it also looks like you may have lied to Larry about the profitability of the mines. Like, what is going on? What is going on? You're trying to sit at the tippy top so bad, and the way that you're treating people on the way up, baby, they're going to be grinning at you on your way down. And it looks like that downfall is coming fast as hell. And this is not going to be something that he can blame on Gladys not Gladys, on Bertha, while he probably will try to finagle it. And, oh, if you would have just let me feel like a man and not be weak, then I could just grab all of my cojones and have the fortitude to go into these meetings. But like, no, you're making very bad business decisions for the sake of being the lead of Amtrak. Like, sir, I'm gonna need you to get it together, okay? Get it together. Speaking of getting it together, Marian, girl. Okay. Sure. A girl is allowed to have trust issues. She's allowed to have triggers and trauma responses to past relationships where, if it looks like a duck, act like a duck, quack like a duck, it's a duck. Okay. She has allowed that. That being said, my good sis, if you're going to break off the engagement via letter anyway, why not just write your man? Why are you sending him a 4-page letter through his footman to then get to him without having a conversation in which Ada and Oscar told you, let's just see what's going on? Okay. And do you think she listened to anybody? No. So you went and told all your business, seeking advice, and like George, refused to take the advice that you sought. That is weird. That is weird. Oh my God. And like I said, it's not that she's not allowed to have those triggering responses and stuff like that, but this season, Marian has kind of been walking around and talking to herself as if she's this like woman who's reasonable, who's capable of having conversations within a relationship. She's been moving in this relationship differently than the other ladies of society. She kind of taken an untraditional role within her relationship. Larry has been treating her like an equal in the relationship. He considers her opinions, he considers her thoughts, he considers her feelings, he brings her in on a lot of different things. And so to see her fall into this weepy, traditional woman societal role of the 1880s when she found out that he went to the strip club instead of going to Delmonico's was just like, okay, girl. So we're just pretending that we're fine and strong and healed and got our shit together. It was rather annoying. And I feel like two things can be true. She can be reacting to the history of her past, but she should be talking to her man about this. Like, even if you're gonna break up with him, can you send him the letter? Like, I don't know. It was just, I didn't like it. Didn't like it. Last week, I was all Larian. This week, I'm just like, girl, what is you doing? What is you doing? Now, I'm being kind, right? Because I had to learn the backstory because of what I originally thought when I watched this. And after getting some information, it did make me change how I was going to come at you, Marian. It changed. I am capable of softening my approach and rewriting my opinions as I gain more information. But again, two things can be true at once. this was absolutely ridiculous, and you could have waited until Larry got back. And if you out here talking to everybody and a mama, then you should have just did a little bit more recon or pushed a bit harder. Now, why Jack didn't just come out and say, girl, they was trying to be on your man and your man was not having it. He was literally here supporting his friend. I don't know, but Jack don't know what he doing either. And so I definitely get him not wanting to have the responsibility of the lie, because Larry did lie. But seeing this reaction, I was like, yeah, I see why niggas be lying. Cause what? What? But he should not have lied. I'm curious as to if he gets to confront her this season, if he gets to come back home in the final episode and they have a conversation about this. I'm curious to see what the reason would be. My dumbass thought the name of the strip club was Delmonico's, so I didn't even know that he lied to her about it. But it just seemed like Marian wasn't focused on the lie, which she should have been. I would have been okay if she was focused on the lie in particular, but just all of this whole ill repute and just looking down on ladies of the night, it was just really giving slut shaming. And that's kind of what was like battling with me on the inside, because it just seemed like it was slut shaming and just bashing women wrapped around the lie, when the lie should have been the focal point in the first place. Like, even the conversation that she was having with Peggy, like, I don't know. It was just giving, I mean, it was giving what it was supposed to be given in 1880, I guess, you know, whorehouses, bathhouses, and stuff like that. But it was just jarring to me to kind of see Marian go from being somewhat of a rebel, being somewhat forward thinking, almost like a millennial in a way, being a girl's girl, just to kind of have this sweep the rug from underneath her legs, and you really get to see all of her insecurities and all of her fears laid bare, and a little bit of the ignorance that's wrapped around what this is. And again, you went and told your business to everybody and didn't listen to a single soul. Like, the fact that Oscar was like being reasonable. Agnes is just like, girl, do what you do. But Ada was like, girl, can we just see what's up? Like, can we just have conversations? But what do you expect from a 20-something-year-old? Like, you don't expect logic, you don't expect reason, you don't expect maturity, to be honest. And even though this is in a period in an age where people had to mature a lot sooner, the brain doesn't work that way, and she still very much had an under 25 non-fully formed frontal lobe reaction to this information. So I don't know, girl, good luck. And speaking of good luck, Jack has been elevated out of the house. Now, Agnes has said something that pissed me off. Something like she's got the right to know like how much money he made, and if he's making that much money, she was like, he could have got us out of this 10 times over, and he just sitting here and he's living under our roof. Ma'am, that's not your money. Like, I'm sorry. What? And Jack's situation, I get what Ada was saying with him leaving the house. And this is a part of a larger conversation of like financial literacy, crabs in a barrel, what true support looks like, and what it means to embrace and own your success. A lot of the people, as you saw in this episode, invested in him being able to build a prototype for his clock. The whole house invested in him, and that is beautiful. That it really was like a family. But Mrs. Armstrong, oh hater ass, went and told Agnes how much he actually made. And it just turned into this whole thing because Jack just wanted to still be treated the same and be in a house surrounded by people who loved him and who supported him. But she's all like, oh, it's the rest of us, we're feeling uncomfortable because he got all this money, but he's just throwing it in our face by continuing to work here because he loves his job. And so the thing is, you don't know what it means to be passionate about anything and to love something in the absence of the money. And when Mrs. Armstrong even got an envelope after being somebody who didn't even invest in him, you could see the egg crack wide open on her face because you was being mean to him the whole time and lying, saying that the whole house was uncomfortable with him being there and all these other things when they weren't. They were happy for him and they were excited for him. But it just kind of turned into this whole thing of like, oh, you think you better than us? Oh, so why you even still over here? You got all this money. Why you even still live here? You need to go do something on your own. But just because he has money, he's never had money. And so that doesn't mean he's going to make the best financial decisions. So you're taking somebody who was broke yesterday and is a millionaire the next day, and you're sending him out on the streets and you're saying that he's flaunting these things when he has done nothing. The psychological effects of coming into that much money at one time without having the proper mentorship to make that money grow, to invest that money into some things so that he's not broke in the next 30 days. That is what Jack needs. I don't think he needs to be thrown on the street. I do like how Ada worded it because Agnes was just like, get him out my house because he could buy all of us over and I can't believe he just sitting there on all this money. But Ada was just like, you're a man of a different stature now and you should be proud of that. And there's growth in that, and you're not going to achieve that growth and you're not going to know what that looks like for you if you stay comfortable underneath this roof. Your wings are not going to be able to spread and you're not going to be able to learn. So I love how Ada put it that way when his biggest ops was just trying to make it seem like he was mooching off of them. And again, he gave everybody way more than they invested in him because he's a genuinely good person. Like, he's genuinely good. And I hope that in a lot of people's households, they had that conversation about just being financially and fiscally responsible and what it looks like to not have money and then immediately have money. And the even like today of things like there are financial therapists. Yes, there are, to help you build good, healthy relationships with money, especially if you were poor your entire life. Okay. Stop buying everybody in your entourage houses and cars. Stop just giving everybody $10,000 just because you got it. Don't be listening to people. Oh, well, you got it anyway. Well, you could spot this, you could spot that. Because no, you will be back broke real fast and in a hurry. So I just loved that this brought up a topic that is a tale old as time. And I hope that Larry and other people that Jack can meet can teach him how to be financially literate and financially responsible and to develop a good relationship with money. Um, Larry seems to be faring well and better than his daddy. So Larry might be a good start, especially as somebody who's young. And, he likes to throw his money around a little bit, but he also understands the value and the power of subtlety. And this can be really good for Jack. I hope George don't find out. Well, no, George does know that Jack got $300,000. I hope Jack don't run across George and end up investing in him and giving him this money. Like, I need Jack to be rich through the next season. Like, George is getting desperate, and now that Jack is gonna be like in a hotel inside the city and George's business dealings kind of failed, Larry is gone for a month. So I hope in the next episode Jack and George don't cross paths, because I could see Jack his generosity and his heart being taken advantage of to give George the capital standing to be able to barter with everybody else who's looking to gain 51% shareholding for the Chicago Railroad. And that could be a very bad business investment on Jack's part. But I don't know. We'll see. But speaking of bad business, Big Bertha went to England, baby. And she was like, Gladys, listen, I genuinely thought that this would be a really good situation. You get to get a title. You get to come in here with your money and you get to own things. But I never thought that you would come here and roll over. Girl, do you know who your mama and your daddy is? And even Gladys had to acknowledge, like, okay, I did get a lot of my, savvy and ruthlessness from you, mama. Because Bertha's like, she comes there and she does what a mother like her does. She comes, she talks to her daughter, and then she just watches. And she just sees what's up. And she's like, so Sarah be making all of the decisions? Sarah, you're not going to tell my aide what she going to do for me. I got a mouth, I can speak. Okay. So she do a little recon and she goes to Gladys and she's like, listen, if you want that omelet cooked your way, I'm going to need you to crack the egg yourself. You were not raised to be a pushover and you are very smart. Baby girl, you are the table that she should be lucky to be sitting at because you disconnect the cable and turn the lights out. You pay these bills. It's all drabby in here. I done walked past 8 mouse traps. What are these contraptions even? It's dusty as hell in here. It's dark in here. These paintings are old. Why are we all wearing tiaras sitting at the table when really it's supposed to be the Duchess? Girl, what is going on? I'm going to need you to take a vested interest in this house and stop sitting back and let Sarah make all the decisions for you because at the end of the day, you lay in that bed with that man and not her, maybe. And so we get our scene at the dinner table where we're doing some quips. And I want to say this is the second dinner table scene because the first one, Gladys was like, damn, you gotta go hard on Sarah. And she said, fuck Sarah. This your house. And you're my daughter. And when my daughter writes me a letter, I'm getting on the first boat out of here. I'm crossing the Atlantic and I'm coming over here and I'm seeing what the fuck is going on. Because you a Russell, baby. You're a Russell. And your mama done hustle too hard to get to where she is for you to be blinded by your privilege and fall back into some soft ways when you were not raised that way. And you can definitely tell that while Bertha wanted her children to have a much better life than she had growing up, she didn't hide them from the hustle and the ambition that she had to get there. And so she's just reminding Gladys, like, yes, you are privileged, but you are not ignorant and privileged. You know the business that I do. You know the business that your father has done. We have never shielded you from what it takes to be a boss. And so you're not going to come here with Princess, I don't even know who she thinks she is. You're not about to come here and roll over just because, well, I don't know anything yet. So learn it. And so Gladys is like, you know what, Mom? You are absolutely right. And so she is. She's going around. She's getting the footman to take her on the ground. She want to meet everybody. She want to know what's up. And Sarah's like, well, I can tell you. And Bertha's like, well, Gladys got her own eyes and ears and her own mouth, so she can find out herself. And so then we get to the dinner table and Sarah goes to stand up. Gladys sitting down. Bertha sitting down. Everybody sitting down. Hector sitting down. And Gladys was like, hey, Sarah, are you sick? Sarah's like, no, why would you ask me that question? Oh, because surely I thought a bitch that wasn't the Duchess who stood up before the Duchess must be ill and you need to like go to the bathroom and handle something. Like, what's up? and Sarah's looking around the table and ain't nobody backing her up. Hector getting a little smirk. He getting a little turned on. He's like, okay. My wife might be a baddie and she powerful. Let's go. Bertha take a sip of her champagne, baby. She like, yeah, that's my daughter. And the footman next to her talking about some, good job, girl. I'm proud of you. Bro, Sarah is sitting right across the table, but everybody was here for her embarrassment. And Sarah's all like, Hector, you're just gonna let her talk to me like that? Well, bitch, she the Duchess, she my wife, and you should know better. And Gladys went back to her conversation. Yes, because sit your ass down. Because the other day, you someone said, oh, what are you eating on? Pork. I'm gonna need you to get some pork, okay? And then I'm gonna need you to pick this egg off your face, put it on your plate, eat it in silence, because who do you think you are? So Sarah getting sunned this entire episode, it was giving when Khaleesi got advice from her aide with Drogo, and Drogo came into that room and she said, no, all of that you was doing, we're not doing that anymore. It's unsatisfying. It does not make me happy. And I'm not going to be living that way. If I got to live here, we're doing it my way. And that's what Gladys gave this episode. Like I said last week, and everything that happened the way that I figured. We're going to get the stuff out of the way where they're just kind of like, Mom, why you got me over here? And she's like, girl, like, I literally thought that this was the best for you. And I do think ultimately in the long run, this is a good decision. How Bertha went about it, I didn't like. What she did and why she did it and the motivation behind it, I understand. And now that, George is about to make y'all broke, Bertha, you might want to stay in England for a bit. Because your man's is crashing out. But it's finally putting Gladys in that head space of going from, a teen, a young adult, into womanhood and what it looks like to run a house, to own yourself. And Bertha is just not like the women of old. No, they can't get a job, but she runs that house like it's her job, like it's an empire. My sis is Kris Jenner. And you're not about to be the child of Kris Jenner whining and doing nothing and not understanding how to use the tools that I gave you to live a better life than me. So I definitely appreciated the mother-daughter situation that was happening in this episode. But who's still stuck in their old ways? One, Miss Elizabeth Kirkland. What did she say? Hold on. Because the ladies got together, and I didn't like that William didn't tell his mama what this tea party was for. And so she came there, stank in the face, and just the complete opposite of what everybody else is trying to do when it comes to the progression of women's rights, especially in voting. She said, hold on. Oh, well, let's not worry about our fight. Let's fight to protect the voting rights of our husbands. Nigga was like, girl, listen. I'm going to tell you this and I'm going to make it crystal clear. I want to fight for my husband. I want to fight for myself. I want to fight for the sisters in this room. I want to fight for the white women up in New York. We can do it all. And Elizabeth's just like, oh, well, this is a ways away. This ain't going to happen real soon. And it's just like, oh my God, if somebody don't strangle this lady with this big ass scarf that's sitting on top of her head and this hat, I'm going to scream. I am going to scream. And it's just so... We just need to get into the backstory because her husband has already called out some of her embellishments when we first met her. And it's really giving that maybe, just maybe, Elizabeth has an immediate family member, maybe a mother, who was white passing. And there's a bit of some resentment that she was born too dark to do the same thing. And so she spent her life trying to be the good Black. She's hiding underneath these hats, these umbrellas. We're not going outside. We're not getting darker. We're not doing anything. It's literally giving her mama was white passing, or her daddy was white passing. And she saw how they were able to move through society. And she didn't have that. Regardless of generations of, Black wealth and stuff that she has, something about her disposition is giving that to me, because ultimately that is the type of privilege that she seeks. She seeks the type of privilege that an Ada Forte has, that Aurora had, right? And there's no identity and there's no sense of self outside of devotion to her husband. Even asking Peggy, like, okay, you're doing all of this stuff, you got all these ambitions, how you gonna support your man? And she even asked William that, and he was like, I would be so honored to have a wife who does all these things. And she was like, no, you'd be honored to have a woman who does all that things, but a wife is different. And that's y'all's fucking problem, because people be getting married and there's so much weight behind the word wife. And so there's this expectation that you're supposed to act differently, talk differently, move differently, treat the person differently. Remove your entire sense of self, your entire identity. Don't have your friends and stuff anymore, all for the sake of being a wife. A wife is not different than being a woman, because the woman is the wife. And you cannot have a wife without having the woman. You cannot. She's supposed to kill her entire existence that lived before you for the sake of a title, for the sake of elevating you to her own detriment, to her own health, her sanity. No. But this is the advice that Elizabeth is giving her son, as if her son is not going into this relationship with eyes and ears of his own, knowing that these are Peggy's ambitions. They were her ambitions before him. They were already in motion before him. So he's supposed to continue to court her, get married, and be like, you don't got to work no more. I'm a doctor. Okay. Unless you can't handle fame, I don't really know what this is, because Peggy will be famous. She is setting out her own path to making real change in Black history. And his mom was like, she wants too much. You need to get you a bitch that only want to sit at home, have your babies, and do whatever you say. So you want your son to get a slave. Elizabeth, what are your ambitions? Who were you before you were Mrs. Kirkland? Because it's giving jealousy. And on the opposite side of that, I love that Dorothy had this conversation with Peggy. I got my reservations too, girl, and not for the same reasons. When you marry him, you are marrying this family. Do you think that this is something that you can take? And do you think that William will be able to go against his mother for you? That is the biggest question. And that's the thing that I've been asking, in the ways in which she be saying all this stuff in his presence. And yeah, he has like a facial reaction, but I've been saying, he comes off as if he's trying to purposely ignore it for the sake of, oh, my mom just needs to get to know you better. Your mother is a colorist. Your mother is a bigot against her own people. Your mother is anti-woman. She's a fucking doormat. And you're just thinking to continue to put her in the presence of Peggy that these things are going to rub off on her. Baby, your mama is in her 60s. Ain't shit rubbing off on her. It's not. And so I really need William to open up his eyes to who his mother actually is. Because I don't think that he's going to stand up to his mama for Peggy. I think that regardless of their feelings for one another, Peggy is going to have to let this man go. It's not going to be It's not going to be worth it because she's going to constantly be battling his mama and battling him, and she's going to be alone in the relationship. She's already having to helm so many things as a Black woman living on this earth. Now she got to do it in a household where you're the one that's supposed to be providing my safety. You're the one that's supposed to be providing for me. And safety is not just the physical. I need to be psychologically safe. I need to be emotionally safe. I need to be mentally safe. And I need to be safe in the presence of your family. But every time your mama open her mouth, it's some passive aggressive bullshit and an aim at my identity and who I am as a person. And you sitting there and you're not saying nothing. And Peggy doesn't need that in a husband. She is also a part of that new millennium, that new type of mindset where women are starting to own their own voices. Why would she go backwards? And why should she go backwards? William, you better get your mama. You better get your mama, because Dorothy is one comment away from checking her ass. And you're going to get your feelings hurt in the fallout and in the crosshairs because your mama is going to get told where to go. And now you're going to be feeling bad because you're going to want to protect your mama. But you're a man out here looking to start your own family in this society, and your mama is not your woman no more. Though your mama is not the first lady in your life no more if you're trying to do those things. It's your wife. It's the woman that you out here trying to be next to you. She is not behind you. She is your equal. She may not have the same legal powers in society at this time, but she is not someone for you to step on and to relegate as your shadow. And Peggy don't even come off that way. So you're going to have to reconcile your relationship and your feelings with your mother. Hop off the tit and figure out how to be a man standing on his own 2 feet who can balance these relationships, but put his foot down when it needs to be put down, because otherwise this ain't gonna work out for you. And I don't know too many other Black ladies other than whoever your mama picked for you anyway, who's gonna be some super light bright or whatever to marry you. And she's gonna be somebody who's not smart. She'll know societal things, but I just feel like William would get bored with somebody who doesn't mentally stimulate him and who doesn't challenge him in ways that excites him and gets him going. So, Elizabeth, baby, you better watch that mouth, bro. You better watch that mouth. So there's that. The Gilded Age, season 3, episode 6, if you want an omelet. And honestly, that's the theme for everybody, not just the line that Bertha said to Gladys. If you want some shit done, do it yourself. That is the theme. That is the theme. Now, quick apologies, because I did just get back from Comic-Con. Your girl is tired. So we did not get this out on Sunday. I just did not have the energy to do any of this. But I got up at 4 something in the morning today to prepare and get this out for y'all. So, and speaking of birds, the Gilded Age has been renewed for season 4. Congratulations to everybody behind bringing this story to life. Season 3 has taken off. It has been incredible. The season 3 premiere was already a 27% increase in viewership from the first 2 season premieres. And last week's episode saw 4 million viewers tuned in. When I tell you we are locked in, we are locked in. I'm so excited to see more people talking about this on Twitter, on TikTok, in these comments. Love seeing the Black people come out as well and just kind of spreading the word for the show, because again, like I said, this show handles so many different sensitive conversations with such care, as far as misogyny, feminism, colorism, slavery, anti-Black, what it means to be a man, masculinity, femininity. There's just such a delicate balance in the way that they handle all of these storylines. So even though I have my favorites, and even though I have people who be pissing me off, they're not pissing me off in ways that I want their characters to leave. They're pissing me off in ways that excites my mind, because we're able to have conversations through an 1880s lens, but with topics that we're still discussing in 2025. And so it's just, again, it's such a blend of being able to confront a lot of different things and looking at how the times were then and realizing that they're still the same systemically today, regardless of inventions and regardless of worldly progression. There's this mindset that is still set in a lot of people's minds that is very indicative of the 1800s, and they have not outgrown that. So I think it's just a very good medium to have this conversation in a setting where it was allowed so that we can discuss these things in 2025 and have 2025 feelings about these things. Like, it's okay that people view this through a 2025 lens and have conversations about that because we weren't born in the 1880s. I think when people bring in the modern day parallels to what's going on in this fictional show that depicts non-fictional things, people are approaching it not to say that they should make better decisions, better character decisions, because they're making the decisions based on the time being. I just think a lot of people just are frustrated that in 2025, we still are dealing with the same shit. And so people are, they're giving commentary because of their frustration, because they're watching something that happened in 1880 and they're looking at the laws and they're looking at the state of America right now and they're like, this shit looking real similar. And so with that, I say allow people to have their opinion. You got yours, they got theirs. Don't agree with it, don't respond. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But your girl does have a day job, and so we're gonna wrap up this episode there. As always, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave comments in the comments box below. If you got people that only want to listen to it, make sure you share that Spotify and that Apple Podcast link. You can also find me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast, where I'm dropping all types of news and updates on film and TV. You can find me on TikTok where I do short form reviews and content. Y'all, it's crazy. The Gilded Age is popping here and on TikTok. Please go over there. And also, if you got any suggestions of different shows that you want me to review, let me know. Somebody just gave me a suggestion yesterday about the show on Netflix that I need to check out. So who knows? That could be coming here. That could be coming on TikTok. But I like taking suggestions. I like listening to y'all. And of course, and as always, you can find me on Twitter talking my shit about any and everything film and television. And with that, I will catch y'all in the next episode.